What's up guys, my name is Glocko from GameReviewHQ.net and welcome to a Heroes of the Storm gameplay and build overview featuring Jim Raynor, the renegade commander from StarCraft. Jim Raynor is a ranged assassin who can knock back enemies and buff allies. He's also very resilient and can regenerate health quickly when in trouble. He's a very easy hero to use and can adapt well in any situation no matter what the team composition is. In other words, he's an all-around hero. Let's go over his abilities first. His Q is Penetrating Round. It's a skill shot that damages and knocks back enemies in a straight line. Use this skill when trying to clear waves, zoning out enemies, poking them, damaging towers, or as a finisher to secure kills. Penetrating Round has a fairly low cooldown and low mana cost, just like Raynor's other skills, so take advantage of this. His W is Inspire, which increases the attack speed of Raynor and his nearby allies for 8 seconds. Use this skill when pushing lanes to buff up your minions or during team fights to give your team an edge in clashing. His third ability is Adrenaline Rush, which automatically heals Raynor when his health reaches below 30%. This passive skill gives Ranyor the advantage in terms of sustainability in laning and survivability during clashes. His R or ultimate can either be Hyperion or Raynor's Raiders. Hyperion allows Raynor to call his massive battleship cruiser to do a strafing run in a wide area of effect. The Hyperion attacks random targets as well as structures. Occasionally, it charges up its Yamato Canyon to deal massive damage on structures. So use the Hyperion to deal large burst damage when snowballing during team fights or when destroying structures while pushing. As for Raynor's Raiders, this ability calls 2 cloaked banshees that will attack and chase a single enemy. This ability is used when you want to focus on a specific target to deal massive DPS. You can also use it to damage structures. It's important to note though that these banshees can be destroyed if they are uncloaked. Now let's go through Raynor's talents. At tier 1, you can go for one of the following. First is Give Me More, which grants your Adrenaline Rush 50% more healing. Get this if you want more sustain and survivability when laning or during fights. Second is Seasoned Marksman, which gives you 1 bonus basic attack damage for every 6 minions or heroes killed near you. An enemy takedown counts as 2 kills. This effect stacks, so get this talent if you want more DPS during the later parts of the game. Third is Raider's Recruitment, which allows you to insta-kill or recruit mercenaries when you have 15 stacks. You gain stacks by killing minions. You can get a maximum of 50 stacks. Get this talent if you want to take advantage of mercenaries for your team. This does not, however, work on bosses. And fourth is the Scouting Drone, which allows you to place a drone that reveals a large area of the map for 45 seconds. The drone can be killed, so choose this skill if you want to support your team by granting vision on an area in order to either gank enemies or to check if the coast is clear. Now at tier 2, you can go for one of the following. First is Focused Attack, which periodically adds 50% to your basic attack every 10 seconds. The cooldown is reduced by 1 second every time you do a basic attack. So get this talent if you want more DPS and if you want to be a lane bully. Second is Vampiric Assault, which heals you for 15% of the damage you deal to enemies using basic attacks. Get this talent if you want more sustain in lane and during team fights. Third is Confident Aim, which reduces the cooldown of your Q for 4 seconds whenever it hits an enemy hero. Now, like what the talent is called, choose this if you are confident with your skill shots in order to give you an edge in harassing, poking, and clearing lanes when laning. And fourth is Activated Rush, which lowers the cooldown of your adrenaline rush as well as giving you the ability to activate it whenever you need it. Use this if you want more survivability and during emergencies, especially if you're being focused at by the enemy. At tier 3, you can go for one of the following. First is Hamstring Shot that slows down 20% of your enemy's movement speed for 3 seconds if you hit them with Penetrating Shot. Get this talent if you want to initiate for your team or if you want to focus or chase a specific enemy. Second is Revolution Overdrive, which increases your movement speed when you use Inspire. The effect increases when you have more allies inspired near you. Get this talent if you want to go for a more supportive role. Third is Fight or Flight, which allows your Inspire to remove movement impairing effects like Root, Stun, Slow, and Silence. Get this talent if your enemy can inflict such impairing effects. And fourth is Mercenary Lord, which buffs your mercenaries near your hero. Get this talent if your team heavily relies on mercenaries. Now at tier 4, you can now unlock your ultimate skill. At tier 5, you can get one of the following. First is Giant Killer that buffs your basic attack damage onto enemy heroes for 1.5% of their maximum health. Get this talent if you want higher DPS if your enemy team has tanky heroes. Second is Double Barreled that grants your penetrating round a second charge. Get this talent if you're confident with your skill shots and if you want to provide more crowd control when clashing or zoning out enemies. Third is Steel Resolve that prolongs the effect of Inspire by 50% and allows it to activate with Adrenaline Rush. Get this if you want to provide more support for your teammates. And fourth is Putting on a Clinic, which reduces the cooldowns of your skills for every enemy you defeat. Use this if your team is ahead or if you're confident with killing enemies to snowball them during team fights. Now at tier 6, you can get one of the following. First is Executioner, which allows you to deal 40% more damage to disabled targets. Get this talent if your team has crowd control skills or disables to deal massive damage. Second is Cluster Round, which buffs up the effect of your penetrating round. The more targets you hit, the more damage it deals to the next one getting hit. The width of the hitbox is also increased by 50%. So get this talent if you want higher burst damage or if you want to clear waves even faster. Third is Bullseye, which stuns the first enemy hit by penetrating round and deals 50% more damage to it. Get this talent if you want to initiate team fights or if your team needs an enemy disabled during crucial times. Fourth is Relentless Leader, which reduces the duration of disables to Ranyor as well as knocking back enemies if you get stunned. Get this if your enemy has lots of heroes with disables. And fifth is Berserk, which increases your attack speed and movement speed upon activation. Get this if you want higher DPS. And lastly, at tier 7, you can get the following. First is Scorched Earth, which is only available if you have the Hyperion. This grants your Hyperion to do more shots frequently, so get this if you want to deal more burst damage to enemies during clashes. Second is Dusk Wings, which is only available if you have the Banshees. This allows your Banshees to stay cloaked while attacking and also increases their attack speed. Get this for more DPS. Third is a card to play which lowers the cooldowns of Ranyor's abilities for every hero that dies around Ranyor, whether it be ally or enemy. So get this if your team is at an advantage and can kill enemy heroes quickly. And fourth is Nexus Friendly, which increases your attack speed and range by 20%. Get this talent if you want more DPS and if you want to enjoy doing free hits from a longer distance. And last is Bolt of the Storm, which gives you the ability to teleport instantly in a short distance. Get this talent if you want to be able to make a quick escape or if you want to chase down enemies. Now let's go over to Ranyor's playstyle. We are in the game called Sky Temple, where your objective is to capture and hold temples in order to destroy the enemy's base faster. So for this kind of game mode, we need Ranyor to have more sustain when defending temples and when laning. So we chose Give Me More for his tier 1 talent. So in our lane, we are up against Stitches and Nova. Our job here as Ranyor is to zone the enemy out and to make good use of our skill shots to harass or poke the enemy to prevent them from getting the upper hand or from getting experience. Ranyor's passive allows him to have a farther range than most heroes, so use this at your advantage. Since we have more sustainability in lane, we have to do our best to stay in the lane as long as we can to gather experience for our team and to push the enemy's defenses. At level 4, we took Focus Attack as our next talent in order to deal more damage to our enemies. This will make us a lane bully during the early stages of this game, so keep harassing the enemy and push as much as you can to win the lane. At level 7, I went for Revolution Overdrive to give me increased movement speed, which will allow me to maneuver better and to dodge enemy skill shots during packets. Now, when the temples were activated, I and my teammates tried to hold the temple. So I activated Inspire to buff up our allies, and I tried to zone out the enemies from trying to steal the temple from us. As my teammates started to go all out on the enemy, I immediately tried to focus on the squishy enemies first, while maintaining a distance to ensure I had free hits. I made sure to use my Q to knock them back, and I used Inspire again to help my team. This allowed us to secure 2 kills during the clash, and as we continued the push, we were able to take out Stitches, who apparently was just standing. Now we see Nova targeting our wounded ally, so we made sure to guard our ally in case Nova appears again until our ally returns safely to our base. Now at level 10, we went for the Hyperion because at this point and at this game mode, it's important to have large burst AoE damages during team fights, and we also need something that can destroy structures. The Hyperion's strafing attack and Yamato Cannon will provide those for our team. Now in this clash, we concentrated on Nova and took her out. Now, as the enemy Tyrell kills our Jaina, we pushed him back to our side of the base and took him down for a double kill. We also survived his Archangel's Wrath because of our adrenaline rush and was able to stay on lane to push after the clash. At level 13, we went for Giant Killer to increase our damage output because our enemy's defenses are getting stronger, and our team also needs more DPS during team fights. So we died during a clash in the temple due to the enemy's team having heavy burst damage. So at level 16, we went for Bullseye as our next talent to give our team something for crowd control and to initiate clashes. Now, as we were clashing in this boss pit, we were devoured by Zagara's ult, but as soon as the effect wore off, we immediately concentrated on Nova because she has the highest DPS in the enemy team. We got rid of her quickly and shifted our attention to the other enemies. Unfortunately, I was careless and allowed the boss monster to hit me, which led to my death. However, thanks to our efforts, we were able to secure 4 kills. After respawning, everyone immediately went to the temple on the top, including our enemies. And when everyone started clashing, I saw the chance to use the Hyperion since the enemies were in a good strafing position. As the Hyperion strafed, we were able to deal massive damage to our enemies and took most of them out. Unfortunately, we were taken out by the enemy's backup and our team got wiped out by the Nova and Tyrael. Fortunately, Nova did not take advantage of the situation to capture the temple. So at this point, we went for Scorched Earth for our final talent to increase the damage output of our Hyperion the next time we clash. Now everyone is clashing again in the boss pit, and this time we can see that our enemies' health are just around 50 to 60% and are in good strafing positions. So I immediately unleashed the buffed up Hyperion and inspired my teammates to unleash an all-out attack. We were able to take out 2 enemies with the Hyperion and chase down the remaining enemies. We eventually took down 4 of our enemies and took this golden chance to capture the temples. We took 2 temples and proceeded to destroying the last 2 remaining structures of the enemy base. And that's how you build Ranyor, depending on what the situation you're in. Now let's go for his pros and cons. Let's start with the cons. So Ranyor is a very squishy target during early game, and he doesn't have that high of a DPS early on, so he really needs to compensate with sustainability and supporting his teammates. He can easily be taken out with high burst damages to counter his adrenaline rush. And lastly, he doesn't have any crowd control skills unless you take Bullseye at a later level, so you have to rely on zoning out enemies with your Q to keep them back. Now for the pros. His range is greater than most heroes and his cooldowns are really low, so he can be a very good lane bully. As he levels up, his DPS gets higher and higher, and this can prove crucial in winning team fights, especially if he unleashes his skill at the right moments. He has high sustainability when taking damage and can support his team. And overall, Ranyor is really adaptable to any kind of situation and can work really well in any kind of team play. So Ranyor is considered as an all-around hero that's easy to use. So I highly recommend Ranyor for those players who enjoy being a ranged hero and for those who are just new to playing Heroes of the Storm. So blast your enemies and buff up your allies. Show them the might of the Renegade Commander. And that's it for this hero overview. I am Glocko from GameReviewHQ.net signing off.